Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. Today I'm going to show you how to make a shaker cake topper. The last upload that I did, I just showed you how to design and make and assemble this entire cake topper. It's just out of plain cardstock with some glitter cardstock with it. But today what we're going to do is take this topper and make it a shaker cake topper. So you get the best of both worlds and you know how to design both of these cake toppers. If you are just tuning in this and you think that you're a beginner at Cricut Design Space, what I would suggest doing is going back into this video right here and learning how to make this cake topper first and just get the very basics of how to do this, so then you can move on to this. While I do think that you would be able to figure it out just by this tutorial, how to make this one, it would be helpful to know just like the little tricks of things and button clicks that you'll need to do, like offsets and slicing and stuff like that, to where this will be a lot easier for you. So if you're a beginner, start here first to this video and then move on to this one that you're watching now. Okay, so let's get started in the design process. We're going to do the design work of how to do the shaker cake topper first, and then we'll go to the Cricut machines. I'm going to show you a couple little tricks with the Cricut machines for if things don't cut appropriately, and then we'll get to assembling all of that together. So just for the design process, what I would suggest getting is just a pen and a piece of paper, or you can also do it on your computer and your little notepad. I always like to do pen and paper. I'm old school. So just get a pen and piece of paper. Let's get started on doing the design work for the Mickey Shaker Cake Topper. Right here. I was like, what happened? Oh, and then I forgot to float myself to the top. Okay, so this right here is the already finished design for the Mickey Cake Topper, the shaker one right here. I always do one good design first and then cut it out just to make sure that the files and everything I'm going to tell you to do is exactly perfect and the quickest way to do it with like no hiccups involved. You will see that I have one back shadow. In the last cake topper, that this one right here is also reversed. The last video that I did, I showed you the reasoning of why I have an extra backer that is reversed, is because you're going to try and hide all the ugly, and that also happens with this one too. So we're going to need that one backer, and we have all these pieces. Now let me show you how we design this. So for this video, if you've already done the first video, you already know the fonts that I've chosen. So for the number 2, all we're going to do, let me make that bigger. All we're going to do is we're going to add in a text box and just put in number 2. And we're going to make this any size possible. Mac, no. My dog is up here and he is licking the wall. Quit doing that. Caca. Oh my goodness. Okay, putting in the number 2, and we're going to resize it. I am not worried about sizing right now. We are going to resize it later at the very end. But we're just going to resize this and make it as big as what possible, or that will fit our screen. I'm going to change this over to grilled cheese. And it just got really big, so I'm going to make that smaller just so it fits into my screen, and I'm going to drag this down because we don't need that. Okay, so we have our number 2, and we need to start making some offsets for this. Do you see how, let me bring this 2 up. Whoops. That's another shadow. We'll go there. Okay. Center that real quick. Okay, this right here I'll show you that in a second, is something. But then do you see how there is like this black shadow right here? That is called an offset. That is taking something and making it offset. So what we're going to do here is our original 2 that we have, and we are going to make an offset. There is no like magic number to this. I always just press this offset button, and this, after the little loading bar loads up, you can slide this around and you can see on the actual 2, it is quite obnoxious that it's getting covered up, but you can see how there is this like blue line. That is going to be your offset. You can take the dragging scroll bar and drag it to whatever width that you would like. There's no like mathematical equation to this. It's just what eyeball, whatever you like. I had said this previously in the last video, but if you like this number, if we're doing 0.208, I would put that on your pen and piece of paper just in case for future references. If you go to make this same cake topper, it won't save. It's like a glitch. I don't know, but it just will never save your offsets like what you've done previously. So make sure, make a note of that. I am going to make it just a little bit smaller because that seems to be a little bit too thick for me. And we're going to go to we'll do 1.5 or 0.15. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, because I can see that it's all connected right there. So 0.18 is what I'm going to do. The corners of the thing, I didn't touch on this last time, but the corners, do you see how it's rounded right here? If I were to do a square, now if you had a square, like if you were using a square type original font, that would be more of like a square, like a 90-degree square versus a rounded. It will not be like that for this particular font because the font itself is already rounded. So it's kind of hard to round or to straighten out a rounded font already. I'm going to keep it at the round because I want to keep it that way. And then just press apply. That is our back shadow. That is what we want right here. So I'm going to slide this back down. That's our original one. And I'm going to take this too. This is our offset, and I'm just going to move it over to the side because we don't need that right now. That is our back shadow. Now what we want to do is create a outline of your cake topper. There is going to be multiple layers on this right here. You can kind of see it, but you have multiple layers on this entire thing. So we need to create an outline for that. And how to do that? For me, some people do it the same way as the offset. I like to go on the inside, which is called an inset. So over here in the offsets again, click the original 2 that you put on there, click that offset button again. And instead of dragging it over to the right, we're going to drag it to the left. And actually, let me press cancel real quick. I'm going to change this color to a lighter color just because then when we go to offset, you'll be able to see the lines when you go in. Start going in. See how you can see that blue line? Again, going back to what we said earlier about your offset, make it any size that you want. Just eyeball whatever, whatever size you like to. If you do it too small, it ends up looking a little funny, but you're just wanting to make a border. So I'm going to go like this. You want to make it thick enough border because we are going to add stuff into our shaker. So you want to make a thick enough border that things won't start flying out, but you don't want it too thick to where then you start losing like the shape of your letter. If you do it like this, you're not going to have a whole lot of movement in your shaker and it's going to kind of look a little funny. So we just want to do just eyeballing it. And it's okay if you think that this is the right one, we press apply and we don't like it, you just delete it and try over again. I think this is what I like and just press apply. So now you have a inset is what this is called, the original 2, which is now white, and then you have your offset, which is your shadow that we're not going to touch right now. Okay, with the two 2s, select both, press align, and then center. We want to make sure that this is centered. This is crucial. I'm going to drag the entire stack over and then press duplicate. And there is now an Etsy glitch, or not an Etsy glitch, a Cricut design space glitch that every single time you duplicate or copy and paste, it does not stick to where it's supposed to. It's been kind of obnoxious. So then all we're going to do is press align and then center again. And we're going to make sure everything is center. Okay, with these 2 that we have right here, we are going to right click and press slice. You can also, instead of right clicking, you could also, if you had this both selected over here, you could also press slice down at the very bottom. Okay. When we pressed slice originally, now this changed colors, right? It was black and white and now it's all white and it has like a line on the inside. We have like 3 different layers going on. We have 1 and then we have the 2 insets. We're going to delete the insets, and we're going to keep the shadow. Okay. We are going to be thinking like sandwiches today. Lots of sandwiches, and it's going to start to get real confusing. That is why you need your pen and piece of paper, because it's going to start to get real confusing here. So, not only do you need one for the top, which is right here. This is glitter cardstock up right here. You're also going to need another one for the inside where you're going to do your foam sheet. So you're going to need 2 of those. So we're going to take this one and we're going to duplicate it. And then we'll drag that over. Okay, and then you are also going to need 1 piece of acetate that's on the top right here. This, like the clear, it's clear. You can kind of see like the little reflection. That's clear. It's called acetate. We're going to need 1 of those. So that's where the original 2 came in place, which that's the inside. This is the original 2. So you're going to need 1 of those. And then you're going to need another one for the backer piece. So the yellow that you see at the very back yellow right here, that is the original 2 too. So we're going to take that original 2 and we're going to duplicate that again. Did I lose you? You're going to have a lot of pieces. So I will explain what we're doing here in a second, but essentially this is what you want it to look like. You want a border on the outside. This is that right here, that glitter cardstock. You're going to want that. The reason for that is when you glue this clear sheet on top of the foam sheet, it gets kind of ugly. Trust me, there's no way working away that. It's going to get ugly. So you're going to want to keep this just to hide all the ugly. That's the goal. But name of the game is hiding all that ugly, which is underneath this. If I were to take this apart, you would see ugly. We'll see it later. So you want an outline, you want an acetate sheet, you want another outline, that's going to be your foam sheet, and then you want another backer sheet, and that is your sandwich. That's going to sandwich it all together. And then you're going to want an outline only for this one. Do you see how there is like black glitter right here? That's the outline. If you did not want that black glitter outline offset, you don't even have to do that. In order to do a proper shaker, you need 4 layers right here. If you don't want to do that extra additional offset, you don't have to. You don't have to do that. But for this video purposes, just make one so we can assemble it just like this together. Okay, so this is where your pen and your paper need to come in handy because you need to start making changes to the colors just like you have here. You see how I have blue, but I don't have any blue here? It's because in my brain and what I've written on my paper says blue is supposed to be the acetate. So trust the process. Know eventually it'll get there. Your first outline is going to be glitter cardstock. So I'm going to change this to the maroon, and I am going to write maroon equals red glitter. And that just tells me later on when we're in the cutting that I am going to cut red glitter with the maroon. Then I'm going to change this one original 2. I'm going to change it to light blue. And I'm going to put light blue equals clear. And then for the next outline, I am going to change that. What did I have it before? I had it. Let's change it to purple, light purple. And I'm going to put lilac, that's what it is. And I'm going to equal that, and I'm going to do foam for that one. And then for the very back piece, we're going to change that to yellow. Or let's change it to a gold, like a goldenrod color. There we go. And I'm going to do goldenrod equals goldenrod. I actually didn't even use glitter for that. So, equals goldenrod. Goldenrod equals goldenrod. Okay, so that is your shaker. That right here is your shaker components. We're going to delete these because we don't need those. I'll just delete all of that and delete that. Now, if you are adding the Mickeys, you can go into images right here and just put in Mickey. And these will pop up. Some I've paid for, some I haven't paid for. If you have not paid for this and you want to use it, when you go to the make screen, Cricut Design Space will tell you that you need to pay for it. So you can pay for it right then and there, or you can just buy your SVGs off of Etsy or make your own. I love making my own SVGs and import them and use them that way. But I'm just going to insert this to Canvas, and I'm just going to hold off for a second. Delete that one. Okay, now, and delete this one because we don't need that anymore. Now we're going to work on the name. Now that we have all of that, all you need to do is just select all of them and center, because we're going to start working on the name here for a second. Let's bring up this out too, because that's going to be our outline, and we'll work on the name now. So let's do text box. And we're going to use the name William again. And we'll go up into the font box and put in Waltograph. That's what I used before. And I'm going to readjust this to fit. There we go. And we're going to drop that down. I'm going to change this over to a light gray. And I'm also going to put on here, on my piece of paper, light gray equals glitter white. That's what I'm going to use. That's what I'm going to use glitter white for. The reason why it's not going to be white is because Mickey, on my original Mickey cake topper, the name is in glitter white, but Mickey is all in a matte plain cardstock. So that's why I'm changing it over to white. Now, I'm going to zoom in real quick. You see how the W and the I are connecting? I don't want that, so I'm going to come up here to advanced and just ungroup those letters. And we'll slide this over to where we have the spacing that we like. Once we have the spacing the way we like it, and we're going to need to create that offset, go back up, selecting all those letters, go back up into offset, and we are going to now create an offset. See how it's super big at 0.25? Just slide this down until you get the offset that you're looking for, the amount of offset that you're looking for. Again, this is probably personal preference. There's no right way or, wrong way to do that. Whoa, let's do 1.6, 1.5. Yeah, that looks good for me. And then once you're done, make sure and click this weld. If you don't click it, I'll show you what happens. If you unclick that, see how all of these are now lines? You're going to have each individual weld. So this is what I'm talking about. Instead of welding it on a, I had offsetted this entire text box, which is what we're doing. I didn't weld them. And now what that means is now I have individual offsets for all of these letters. That's what's going to happen here is you're going to have individual offsets for individual letters, and we don't want that. We want one long continuous weld. So we're going to weld those offsets. All that disappears and just press apply. So now you have that black, it's all welded together. And then you have the name here that is all individual letters. And that's exactly what we're looking for. And actually, we'll just keep black for black glitter. Black equals black glitter cardstock. Because we're going to need to change that here in a second. So select all of this and press group. And then select these two right here. Go up to align and center, and then press group again. We'll delete that one. That was the original one. And I am going to now drag up the William, and I'm just going to place it up here just for right now. And then I'm going to take my Mickey, I'm going to drag him up, and I'm going to replace him. See, I'm like sizing him. Always make sure that this lock is locked. Make sure when you are resizing things that they are proportioned. I am like a stickler for things being unproportioned. So I am just going to move him around to where I like his look. And we'll do that with that. Resizing if you need to. If you unclick this and you start moving it around, see how the text just starts to get weird and weirdly adjusted? Instead, make sure this is always locked, and then it will go together the same, like length and width. It'll always be the same. Okay, so I'm going to keep it like that. Now that we have the way, this is what we want it to look like. That is our finished cake topper. That's how we want it to look. Well, now what we want to do is duplicate that. Oh my gosh, how obnoxious. That's fine. We'll leave that there. That Cricut design space glitch, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I have no idea why it's doing that. But we'll keep that the way it needs to go, and we will select all of these, and then we're just going to right click and press weld. All of the components of your cake topper is right here, and that's fine. This right here is going to be that back shadow piece that we're going to start building off of. We're going to change this to gray, like a darker gray, and we're also going to put on here on your piece of paper, dark gray equals plain black. If you want to make this all in glitter cardstock, you totally can, but I like the difference of materials when I'm working with things, so I always do like a little bit of mix of glitter and plain. Okay, so here is the one backer. That's what we're going to build off of. Now we need to be able to hide the ugly, so we need that sandwich. So just press duplicate again, and instead of it being forward facing, we are going to flip and then press horizontal. So now we have our two backer pieces, the entire workings of a shaker cake topper, the name, and Mickey. So then when we press make it, where it's going to look like we have a ton, we have 14 mats. It's going to look like we have a ton of mats, but realistically, we don't. Ooh, you know what? I forgot an important part. We need to resize this. So taking all of this, we are going to just select it all, press align, and center. See how it's 7.7 inches? I want to make this cake topper 6 inches. So I'm just going to put in 6 inches wide and then press go. When you have already made something like a shaker or anything, any file, it doesn't matter what it is. If you select all, and then as long as that, that lock is locked in place, it will continuously move it all together. So this can be readjusted all the time. So if you make a shaker for a number 2, and you make it 6 inches, and then in 3 months you want to make it 9 inches, all you have to do is select all, center it, and then make it 9, press enter, and everything will be the same way. You want to make sure that you're selecting all, centering, and then readjusting everything all at once. That's the beauty of this. Once you have a shaker 2, you never have to make a shaker 2 ever again, because you're going to be able to resize this for any size that you want. So now this cake topper is going to be 6 inches. The name's going to be 2.6 inches wide. The Mickey's going to be almost 5 inches, and then all your inner workings of your shaker is all properly proportioned and to size to exactly what you need. Go back and then make it one more time. Oh, now we lost some mats. Now we're at 13 mats. Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this. There are a couple little tricks that I'm going to show you throughout the cutting process. I don't really show you the cutting process generally because I feel like you should already know how to cut. But for a couple of the materials that we have here, we might need a little tips and tricks. So let's go to the computer and I will show you how to do all that. So for most of this project, you are just going to cut your pieces of paper just as you would normally. I always, if I have special colors of things like what the piece of paper that we've written down, I always just put it like a Post-it. That's why I use Post-its, and I just set it on my machine to where I know what needs to go with what. So I have pretty much cut out everything that I need. There are the last 2 steps, which is going to be your clear piece piece of plastic and then your foam. A little trick and tip. If you have Cricut mats, which clearly you do if you're using one of these, that like clear piece of paper that, or it's not even paper, that clear plastic that comes with this is what you can use to cut that clear out of your, for your shaker cake topper. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this back onto my mat. Mine's like creased on one end, so I'm not going to use that side. And I'm just going to put it on there, load it into my machine. Now, I'm going to do like a pretty light setting because you don't want it. I mean, this is very thin. It does not need to be too heavy of a cut setting. So I'm going to do mine at the iron on plus, and I'm just going to press the go button. Let this cut. Okay, so before I eject this out of there, I always like to lift up. That might have been too light of a setting because the 2 is not coming out with the, like it's not coming out of the paper. I keep saying paper, it's not paper, it's plastic, but it's lifting up with it. You can see the line that it cut and it's lifting up with it. So instead of ejecting this mat, don't eject this mat. Press the cut button again. Don't press the eject button, press the cut button again. Your machine will suck up the mat again, recut it at the same size and area that it was originally. And we're going to try this again. It's still not out there, so I'm just going to recut it. Okay, so now with the third time, it comes out. I probably chose a too light of setting. But do you see how now the 2 is coming out there and there's a hole right here? That's exactly what we're looking for. It comes out freely and the 2 is stuck onto that piece of paper, but that's what we're looking for. Now you can eject the mat. You're left with a perfectly cut 2. I know it's hard to see because it is clear. For the next portion of this, you're going to cut the craft foam. You can get this at any craft store or even on Amazon. You are going to need a deep cut blade for this. The reason for it is you're going to need to be able to go through this material. And the normal silver one, see how the depth of the blade hardly comes out versus the deep one, it comes out a lot. You're going to need this. So I'm going to put that in there, close down the clamp. I put my machine on a custom setting and then chose craft foam as my option. I'm going to lay on the craft foam, give it a good press on there so it doesn't slide around. We're going to load that back into the machine and let it cut. I think it's going to do 3 different passes for craft foam. When it's done cutting, just like with that acetate sheet, try and take it off. If it does not want to come off, instead of ejecting it, just like with that acetate sheet, just press that Cricut cut one before. The machine will suck it back up. Eject this. It seems to be working out well. I'll just trim it when I get to the table with my X-Acto knife. So for whatever reason, my Cricut did not, I think I need to change the blade out of my deep cut blade because it did not cut the inside very well. It did the outside because the outside looks really good, but the inside is still not cut all the way through. So I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife and just trim out the inside. I don't need a whole lot of pressure since it's like barely not cut through, but how frustrating. Now that I have that entire thing cut out, we have what you should be left with is like all, you know what? I'm missing some red shorts. Hold on. I was so flustered with this foam not cutting out appropriately that I forgot to cut out the red Mickey shorts. So what you should be left with is everything for your Mickey, and then a backer piece, and then all your inner workings for the foam. I also have just like a little Clorox wipe, and the reason for that is I am going to, this acetate sheet, I'm just gonna clean it up. It's kind of dirty. This is an old acetate sheet. I'm just gonna wipe it off. This also removes any of the static, so when you put your glitter on the like inside, it won't like suck up and be all staticky and start making a mess. So we're just going to wipe, I'm just gonna wipe that off, clean it up, let this dry for a second. Okay, so the rest of what you're going to need for this project is some glitter. I just got this stuff. This is not glitter. It's like plastic tubing at the $1.25 tree. Have them, I got a couple packs because I want that red and that, I think I want to do the red and the gold, but you could also do the last one that I did right here. I actually have glitter in here. Maybe I should do the glitter instead, because that glitter, this glitter right here, just got at Michael's. It has some black and it has some red, and then I used some bling that I had, just some yellow bling. I just kind of dumped it in there. I think maybe I should do that instead of the tubing. I don't know. Ugh. I feel like I should do this because I like this better instead of that weird tubing. Okay, the other thing that you're going to need is just some glue. I am going to use the Super Tight Precision Craft Glue for all of the paper, the plain paper and the glitter on glitter cardstock. But when it comes to doing like the acetate or the foam and everything like that, I'm gonna be using this stuff right here. It's all-purpose universal glue. It's silicone based. The reason why I like this is it almost works like a gap filler. So if you've ever used gap filler to fill in like cracks in your house or like soundproofing or even weatherproofing your house and it's that foam stuff and it like fills in the gaps, that's what this will do too. So if you're using like a looser glitter like this, it won't start showering out because you filled in all of the cracks and crevices with this. This is like, it works like a gap filler. So I'm gonna use this glue. I don't prefer it in this bottle though, because the bottle is so big and it kind of makes a gluey mess. So I rebottle it. Here is the original bottle, and then I put it in this bottle right here, and it has just a finer tip glue, which is what I'm looking for because I don't like when you can see like glue marks. On this one right here, I use this, and I'm gonna be nitpicky, but you can see there's just a little bit of glue. It's hard to see, but I can see it. And that's because I used the broad tip instead of the fine tip. So I always rebottle my glue. If it doesn't come in a bottle like this, I always put all of my glue back into a finer tip thing. I also have the Super Tight also makes like an E6000 alternative, and I have them in these things too. So again, I always just rebottle my glue to be more of a finer tip, just so then you won't have a mess. I am going to use my little picker upper tool for the smaller items for the Mickey. And then you're gonna need a stick to make the cake topper, and I'm just gonna use my hot glue because it dries really quick for that portion, but that's really all I'm gonna use it for. I have the lettering right here. I kept it on the mat so I don't lose the letters. I should have did it for all of that. I never do. Let's work on the shaker portion first because this glue does take a little bit longer to dry than the rest of the stuff. So we'll work on the shaker first. I am going to put those two things down first because we don't need that. I'm going to work on the back shaker portion first. So this is the sandwich. This is what your sandwich is going to look like. You have the back of your shaker, the foam. I have a random red bling. Then you're gonna have your clear sheet, and then you're gonna have your outline. So it's all a sandwich. Now you have it completely sandwiched in there. Let's work from the bottom up. So here is your very back portion. This is gonna be that outline that we created earlier. I don't need to use that right now for this part. I'm just gonna take the glue and I'm gonna go around the outer perimeter. Stay close to the outside. Because you're going to be using glitter and things that will fall out of the crevices, you want to make sure that you have a continuous stream line of glue. Don't hop around and do glue dots like this. If you do that and you have dots in between, what's going to happen is you're leaving room for the glitter to flow out of. So you want one continuous long stream. If there is a break in that glue, see like right here, there is like a little break in that glue, just go back in and make sure you fill that glue back in with a stream of glue. And because this is silicone based, it almost reminds me of like hot glue where you get that string. So that's why you see me like, we're gonna go like this. And when I pull it up, there's a string. It's hard to see so far away, but then I just kind of wrap my finger around and get rid of that string. And doing a double check. Okay, so it looks really good. Let me go over here. I covered the outer perimeter pretty good. So try not to move this around a lot because this glue does dry glossy, and we're gonna try and make sure that we don't have any glossiness left over. So when you place this down, nicely place this down. Don't try and wiggle it around or move it around a whole lot. So we're gonna go like this. Once you have it lined up as best as what you can do, I'm just going to lay my acetate sheet on there just to make sure, just to double check. Everything's lining up, everything's looking good. Yep, looks really good. Try not to knock around that foam sheet too much. If it needs to be moved around, you can move it around because again, this glue does take a little bit to dry. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so if it was me, I would just take a break and let this dry for a minute and then start adding in your glitter. For this video, I'm just gonna start adding in the glitter now. But again, if it was me and I was doing this for an order or for myself, I would wait for this to dry because you don't want to keep handling it or you're going to start sliding things around. Okay, so I am just going to add some glitter into mine. When I made this the other day, when I made that other topper the other day, I don't feel like I put in enough glitter. So I'm going to just kind of overfill it, I guess. And I'm going to add in some bling. Alrighty, and do you see how there is a little bit of glitter on the foam? You can keep it if you wanted to because we're gonna cover that up here in a minute. But I'm just gonna take my nail and I'm gonna slide these back in to the cake topper or off the cake topper. Okay, same thing that we did before. We are going to take our glue and we are gonna do one continuous stream of glue on top of the foam. Those little lines. This is where you now want to put your clear sheet. Same thing like you did with the foam. Just start in the corner and kind of work, and don't slide this around too much or you're going to start getting glue in places you don't want it to go. Once you have it in the places that you want, just kind of press it down a little bit. This again is silicone based, so it will start to fill up the gaps. But just to make sure that it does have a good strong hold, I'm just pushing it down a little bit, and you can tell when it's really good and suctioned in there. Because this is clear on the top, you can see like when the glue suctions the sheet. And I had a little bit of glue coming out the very bottom, so I just took my thumb and just kind of wiped off the glue just a little bit. There wasn't a whole lot, just a little bit. Okay, with your glue fingers, make sure not to touch the inside of this, because if you leave glue on there, it's going to be stuck like that. And then one more time, I'm going to clear off my glue tip. We are going to add more glue for the very top. The reason why it's so important that you have one of these finishing pieces is you can see like kind of ugly, remember? All that ugly that I was talking about, it looks really ugly. But once you add that on there, you're hiding all of that, and that's what we're looking for. The aim of the game is to hide the ugly. So you don't have to worry about it being a continuous stream this time because we've already closed everything up. Just make sure you don't go into the clear portion of it. You want to stay where the foam's at. All right, and then same thing as before, not a whole lot of wiggles. Just try and place it on there as nice as possible. So we want to now let this dry, so I'm just going to use my spatula and make sure it's not stuck to my table, and I'm just going to slide this over just like a pancake. We're just sliding it over. We are going to let this dry, and then we're going to work on assembling Mickey, and then we'll get back to putting the rest of the topper together. So for this This right here, there was a little snag in the paper. So I'm just gonna trim just a little bit so where it's gone. And now you can't even tell that there was a snag in that paper. Okay, and then with my little tool, I'm just gonna add a little dot of glue for the tongue and then for the dots for his pants. I'm gonna use the wax tip end, pick it up and just place it on there. Same thing with those little dots. There we go. He is done. If you want to adjust it, just use this tip and you can adjust the little dots. Whatever you just glued on there, you can adjust it just a little bit. I'm going to move that over to the side. We're going to work on the name now. Same thing I did yesterday. Instead of picking up and individually gluing all of it, I'm just going to start with just a little bit of glue. We got a W-I-L-L-I-A-M. It's okay if you got sloppy glue right now because we're gonna fix that in a minute. And I'm gonna pick this up with my spatula and place it down. Whoa, what happened to my W? Holy moly. Okay, in certain areas of this, there is a little bit of leftover glue. What I always like to do is make sure you have clean palms. There's no like dirt or glue or anything like that, and put my palm down on it and press hard. That kind of just smushes the two layers of cardstock together. But also any of that leftover glue, it is hard to see because there's not a whole lot, but any of that leftover glue is going to be on my palm, and then I just rub it off. And then now there is no glue left over there. Any glue, if there is left over, it'll dry clear, but then that's what you're left with and it's all just kind of stuck on there. This one looks like it's up just a little bit, so I'm gonna smash it down on there. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna still keep working. Go from the back up, just like what we did before. Go into the back up. This is our bottom layer piece of the cake topper. This is that outset. I'm just going to use my precision tipped glue for this portion. I always focus on the outside and then give it a good swoop on the inside. That's all the glue that I'm using. Make sure and line up your pieces as best as possible. There's that. Okay, now we're gonna do the same thing with our shaker portion. Mine's still wet because I'm not gonna let it dry. I would suggest if you were doing this to let this dry fully before you start turning it around and upside down. But I am going to just turn this around, flatten like a pancake, and do the same thing like I did with the black. Just one good stream, and then work your way on the middle. I'm going to use a little bit more glue than I did on the black. I'm going to do a little bit more glue for the yellow just because it's pretty heavy after you add in all the glitter and the foam and everything like that. So I'm going to use a little bit more glue. This would be a lot easier if I waited until it dried, but I didn't. Okay, turn this around. And you want to center that onto your black backer, just like what we did when we were designing. There we go. Because this is still wet, I'm not trying to smush it too much. Go, turn it around, and we'll do it this way. Push the back, just so the back is really stuck on there. Okay, now if you wanted to, you could put a couple foam dots in here to build it up. See how mine isn't like that? I don't have any foam dots in mine. It's because I don't have any foam dots here in my office. I actually don't like working with foam dots. They are a pain in the butt to work with for me. So I am just gonna leave it just like this. I'm not worried about it falling over or anything like that. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line this up with my character. I'm gonna need to put glue here and here, and then also at the tip of his shoe. See how there's just here, and then all of this. I am gonna use this glue because I'm gluing on top of acetate. So I'm just going to put my finger like that. We're just gonna need a little bit of glue. And then at the very tip, I don't suggest using hot glue for this portion because the hot glue will not want to stick very well to the plastic. It will come off. And we're just lining it back up just like what we did before. Pressing down to make sure it is stuck. There we go. Got like a string of glue on there, so just clean that out. All right, in order to make the cake topper portion now, this is what we have, but there's no stick, so obviously there's no cake topper. We're gonna take that backer piece, we're gonna flip it around so it will all line up together eventually. Just take a little bit of hot glue. Eyeball your center or find your center if you want to get real technical. I just eyeball it like that. I'm going to use my glue, go around everything, going around the entire perimeter, just like that. And then I'm going to take my glue, my hot glue, and I'm going to go over the stick. Make sure you go over the stick. And then I'm also going to go in the middle of the cake topper, just like that. You have to work pretty quick with hot glue, especially the one that I have because it is a low temp hot glue gun or an adjustable hot glue gun. You want to line this up, make sure and line this up. That's the important part. Once you got it lined up as best as possible, then just place it down. There you go. Now this is your finished cake topper, your finished shaker cake topper. Mine is still wet. If you did this at home, make sure and just let the layers dry before you start stacking and filling and stuff like that. And then the back of it looks perfect. That's what it looks like. So this is almost like a sellable cake topper, right? Because now it looks perfect on the back and wonderful on the front. How stinking cool is that? All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this walkthrough. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments of this video. If you have questions, I can guarantee someone else has questions as well. So leave them there. All right, y'all, I will talk to you soon.